Hey man, how's it going?
Howdy doody, not too bad, although I am dreading this quickie that we're doing here.
Yeah, howdy doody. Yeah, this has been a long time coming though, right? Like you and I have talked for years and years and years. No, I shouldn't say years and years, for months and months and months, ever since we started this podcast. And one of the reasons we did is because we wanted to talk about Futurama because it was returning. And it was good that new episodes were coming out, all the old voice
Yep.
actors were coming back, writers were coming back.
Even after that weird little thing with John DiMaggio.
Yes, exactly. And obviously they're making more episodes for new people, for a new audience, right? But also for the old, such as you and I. And we've done so many episodes at this point. We've done 29 of the original season so far. Um we have to deal with, not just like when these episodes are coming out, obviously, because people can stream, that's great, but whatever the case. But we now have to deal with quality as much as quantity, because a lot of people, even if they're making like 20 episodes of something, which they're supposed to be doing for this season, whether or not they're good has always been kind of up for debate. So you and I, because you and I, and we said this in our very first episode, this being the introductory thing, how much we don't like on either side, propaganda on either side, messaging on either side. It doesn't matter. It had to be just good, and it had to
Yes.
follow the storyline with all these kinds of things, right? Futurama was one of those shows that stood the test of time in both, at least for most of the stuff that we ever saw in the original series, and of course the Comedy Central run.
Or is it
What
or is the
does it?
movies the movies count as one season.
One
Four
season, I
movies
thought.
count as
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. But then in the Comedy Central run, it's either 2 seasons or 4 seasons because they split them just like they're doing this, right?
Yes, part one, part two. Which in
So,
my opinion is the
mm,
stupidest thing in the world. The
yeah,
stupidest thing in the world. You and I grew up with TV shows that had about 20 to 25-ish episodes
episodes,
per
yeah,
year kind of thing, right?
yeah.
There was plus and minus, of course. Like Futurama, for instance, only had like what 8 episodes the first season, and then had
Yeah.
more the second season.
Mhm.
So
And you'd have to
things
take
do
like
vary.
breaks
Yes,
during the
things
winter
do vary.
break or
Yes,
something.
winter
Yeah.
break and stuff like that. TV was hard, guys. You had to run to the
Yeah. Back
bathroom
in the
during a
day.
commercial and then
Yeah.
try and get back before the commercial was over, so that way you couldn't miss your show. It was awful. We didn't have this pause stuff that you kids, you young
Yeah.
ones have.
And good luck ever catching up on something because you'd have to wait for a rerun if you ever wanted to see that episode again,
Yes,
unless your
yes.
parents were nice enough to buy you the discs or the VHS or whatever they were
No,
coming out
no,
with at the
no.
time.
Even worse, even worse. You had like our buddy Tristan. He had his grandparent would tape on VHS
That's right.
an
Certain
episode, which
episodes of a
is
show.
is
Yeah.
it's not as easy as it is nowadays, guys. You can't just go, oh, record, like, oh, something, one of the shows on at 9 o'clock tonight. Oh, that's cool. I'm not gonna be home. Oh, no biggie. Click record. No, 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 no. You couldn't do
Oh, you
that.
had to be
You
there.
literally had to wait for that to show up, and you couldn't change the channel. You couldn't change the channel because if you did, it would you what channels you were changing to and stuff like that. So, oh, I'm watching Beast Wars for my grandkids. Oh, looks, I gotta watch infomercial. Oh, but Grandma, you ruined it. You went to infomercial about halfway through. Oh.
Yeah,
So
no
yeah,
doubt.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was
You
it was
guys will
hard.
never
It was
know.
absolutely hard back then, but both
Yeah,
sets were very good,
they're
with
not dated.
barring a few episodes. Yeah,
Yeah, they're not dated at all,
not at
kind of
all.
thing,
You
right?
can
Because the
you can
whole
have
thing
fun
is
with
like
them.
Fry came
Yeah,
from 1999, which is no matter what time he comes from, 1999 will always be 1999, right? When he goes back
yes.
there, the few
Even
episodes
if they
that they
don't
go
look like
back in
they
time.
age. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
exactly.
that's
They
that's
do
the one
age,
thing. It's
but
it's like The Simpsons or Family Guy or Bob's Burgers. They've had 20 seasons plus seasons of stuff. They never age. We get used to it, but the voice actors do, which
yeah,
Anthony has quite a big
yes.
not
And you
issue,
know
but
what?
just like it's just something you're like you call out, I guess, and say I don't.
I do. Well,
Yeah,
it's
with
something
with
because
Billy
it's
West and
with Billy West in
being
particular.
the best
Yes.
example. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's something that it's important to keep in mind because just like actors, and we've seen how they've run out actors in their roles over the course of how many years. Like they could be really, really good in their prime 30 years ago, and nowadays they're still trying to make these movies based on that character, but they can't do the stuff that they used to be able to, right? So
No,
this
no,
is
no.
just no, this is just not possible. But voice actors also have this issue. Um,
Yeah.
with anything, Billy West just happens to sound the worst, I would say, out of all the characters on there, because he's the most well recognized for his character roles. But we'll touch base on those as we go through each episode.
He's kind of half the show, right? Like he's half a Planet Express, more or less.
Half a Planet
right?
Express, and he's
Three
half of the
people.
characters that we see and know, right? Fairly typically for all this stuff. But well, let's get into it then. I think the first positive I would say for this season is that graphics are still good and they still keep with the Futurama line.
Yes,
And
there's a little bit of animation differences here and there, mostly in the third episode when they were having that shootout and stuff like that. And
sure.
It's
the 4D
it's the technology,
3D shootout or something.
Yeah, it's just technology at the time and stuff like that. And they had it during the first season or two. I can't remember which particular episodes. Mostly with Bender because he was a lot easier to fake because he's a robot.
Sure.
But the 3D character rigs, those always bothered me because we grew up with 2D animation for the most part, minus some very good shows, again, like Beast Wars, Reboot, and a few other shows I can't think off the top of my head. But that was very basic, very terrible, very polygon-looking 3D.
Of
and
course.
Futurama probably got a little more money because of matte graining, stuff like that. But just I don't like the 3D rigs for the human characters, the organic characters, I guess you should say. But I would say there's a little bit of difference in animation quality, design. They all look the same, more or less, design wise.
Relatively
stuff like
the
that,
same.
just,
I would agree. Yep.
Yeah, there's just little bits and stuff. Because again, this is 2023 versus 2013, which I'm gonna guess that still had some of the same animators who worked on the original run from 2005 to 2000 to 2005. Yeah. So
yeah, sure.
The first break between the cancellation to renewing was very small compared to this one. 10 years is a long time to bring something back, especially when everyone's in their 60s or late 50s. There's now in their 60s and early 70s.
Exactly.
So,
and they're starting to sound
age
it.
out.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that they probably the animation supervisors or directors and stuff like that. Because it's not just the episode directed by. There's also the animation director, which is, more or less in charge of how everything looks, but that they have to still get it okay by the actual director. Blah blah blah. There's a whole ladder of
a lot of stuff for that
of jobs that matter for some reason. And I'm just saying that some of those people probably aren't part of the same original run, so that's why some things look a little different to me, which is fine. It's just fine.
Well, so and when you and I were talking about this, that was something that was probably going to be understood and recognized, right? Because that's just the evolution.
That was my
of
least concern and stuff like that. Again, the only gripe I have is just that 3D rigs that they have of Dwight and that stuff during that shootout in the third episode.
A little weird, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I get they were going for like the cool shootout and stuff like that. Awesome, good job on you guys. It looked great, but just the individualness of it looked weird to me. That's my opinion on it, and I've gone on about it for about 7 minutes.
Well, let's talk about the first one. So either season 8 or season 11, we don't quite know, but this new one we'll just call the Hulu run. Of episode
Hulu
1, The Impossible Stream. So first off the bat, I would say this episode, when you and I talked about it when it first came out, we were happy with it for the most part because at least it started off with the continuity of starting off where the Comedy Central time ended. We're at the Vampire State Building.
The Vampire State Building.
They reappear. They have this whole thing, and basically it's like a continuation. It's like we never left, which is actually really, really good. And then you hear this, of course, this being my thing. Then you hear Billy West. Then you hear Fry speak, and Fry is old. He sounds old. He sounds old and wispy. He doesn't sound like the professor. Like, they have two very distinct voices. And actually, I'd give credit to Billy West that Zoidberg and the professor still sound really good.
Yes. Because I remember watching this the first time, and I remember you having that issue. I was like, yeah, it's fine, man. It's fine. Yeah. But, like, after watching it, I think I kind of watched it again, like, a while ago. And I was just like, why did I do this? Like, half the episodes I liked to like the minimal amount of like that I could like. Right. There's a couple episodes that were like, oh, I really enjoyed these, and I'll get this out of the way now, so that way people can hate me from now or later. There's one I've never hated an episode of Futurama. I now hate at least one. There might be a second one.
Yeah,
but I distinctly hate one of these ones because of the potential it had, and then they just threw it all away, and also it wasn't a good episode in itself.
For sure.
But
and
I will agree with you on the. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure you and I agree on which one in
The one episode.
particular.
Oh yeah,
'Cause there's like
you and you drove me
when we get to
home
that.
when I was home
Yeah.
when I was in Calgary. We bitched about it for probably about half an hour, longer than the episode.
No, this
Um,
is so. You know what?
But yeah, I'm agreeing
I'll
with you
quickly,
about how old Billy West sounds for Fry.
yes,
On the
and
third run.
let me quickly break down this episode as well. So basically, it starts off with basically how they started off, or how they finished off rather in the previous season, going into this one, and Fry and Leela and the professor come back from like the wormhole timeline kind of thing, and they're back into their present day. But it's been for all the characters, because they were trapped in time. I think, what is it, like 10 years have passed? Like they haven't aged, but 10 years have passed or something. So anyway, Fry gets this feeling of like, oh no, I've done nothing with my life. And so he decides to set a goal for himself. And what he does is decide he's going to stream, hence the name of the episode, The Impossible Stream. He's going to stream every single television episode of all time. And the only way he can do it is by a machine that the professor hooks him up with, and all this kind of stuff. With this as well, there's a side plot where Leela and Bender are making sure that Fry doesn't like essentially kill himself in it, so they have to go to the streaming site, which is like a knockoff of Hulu, because Hulu now owns them.
Yeah.
And they have to bring back All My Circuits, so we get a nice little callback with the robot devil and Calculon, and they have to perform it in real life time and all this kind of stuff in order to bring Fry back to normal. But it turns out Fry left his little machine like a couple days earlier because he said the series was getting old and stale based on all the episodes that they were making too quickly, which is like a little meta joke to a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and, it was kind of annoying because they were trying to. I don't know who wrote this episode. I'm pretty sure I could probably look that up. But
I would assume it was
felt,
Cohen, but yeah, David X. Cohen. But
no,
maybe
it wasn't. It was written by a guy named Patrick M. Vernon.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I don't know who that is. I don't know if he had much to do with the other stuff. But just it felt like it was trying to be so meta. Like, yeah, we're making fun of ourselves, guys. Look how cool we are. We know that we're old, but we're making fun of ourselves. Good for us, right? Pat in the back. We did it so that way you can't.
Right.
It's one of those things. You can't make fun of us because we're old. It's like, oh, we still can't. But we already made fun of ourselves, so you can't. We're still gonna.
We can make fun of you for making fun of yourself. Like, you don't have to be so on the nose, right? But that's kind of what this felt like. Was that this is a very on the nose episode that even the Comedy Central runs premiere, like with Rebirth, didn't feel so on the nose, right? There was the one joke where the professor says like, or he says like, yeah, we're on this different area, that we're traveling on this channel here. That Zoidberg says, oh, how humorous. He's like, yes, it's kind of a Comedy Central channel now, and we're on it. Like, it's there. It's a nice, fun joke. But as soon as
it was
Amy
a one
says,
line,
I get it. They move on.
It was a one line. That was it.
Exactly.
This one, it really beat a dead horse. Beat up a dead horse here. Beat a dead horse. It was just.
Yeah, you're beating on a dead horse, basically.
Yeah,
yes.
It was just a lot of the same joke kind of thing, but just like blue, then red, then blue, but it's still the same joke.
Right. And overall, it was fun to see all the characters back. I remember you and I think we're still probably in the same realm. Like, how do you feel about this episode? Are you still like happy with it, or?
I you know what? I like there's a couple things in it that like 10 years ago would have been a joke, but nowadays it's like it's, I don't know what the word is. Inclusion would be the best word to say here, but I don't know. I give it a nice solid 6.5 out of 10, maybe 7. Yeah. Especially for this season, I would give it a 7. But like overall, it's definitely everything on the season. I would say more or less is on the bottom half, the bottom half of Futurama. There's a couple good ones I like, and I know there's one that I like, but you didn't like because of the timey-wimey stuff for it. But like for this season, for Hulu, I will give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Fair enough. I would, when I first saw this episode, I thought I would give it like a 7 out of 10 because I was expecting more, but I was happy with the delivery.
I remember you liked this episode when you first saw it.
Watching the rest of these episodes for the season, I'm definitely putting it down. I'll probably put it on a 6 actually.
A good term here for this, guys, is post nut clarity. When we were doing it, when we were watching, we were like, yeah, this is great. And then as soon as the fun was over, we're like, huh.
Let me think about this now.
Yeah,
exactly. The dopamine's worn off.
Yeah, exactly.
But in any case, yeah. So that'll lead us on to the next episode, which episode 2, Children of a Lesser Bog.
So when you and I looked at like the titles came out for this, I think like February last year or something like that.
Yeah,
Like I can't
half a
remember
year
when
before.
we
Yeah.
saw all these titles, and we were like, Children of a Lesser Bog.
Mm.
That's gotta be Kif's. That's gotta be Kif's.
Holy
And like
crap!
we're,
And
look-
20
we're looking
years
like 20
after
years
the
later and
event.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
And like
exactly. Yeah.
this and Anthony, I think you did a great job. A lot of this stuff is either like, hey, remember this as one of our what were we
One of
like
our greatest moments or something, or yeah.
a fan of ours, no, a
Yeah.
fan of, we're a person that we're a fan of, Nerdrotic, likes to call
Right.
it member berries, which I
Oh,
don't
sure.
know where he got that from, but like, remember this? Here's a
Right.
berry. Remember this? Here's a
Yeah.
berry.
Here's your
Kind of thing.
Easter egg. Here's your
Yeah,
little. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's nostalgic bait,
And
basically.
exactly. And honestly, and everybody, not just us, but like everybody was predicting when they saw Lesser Bog, Children of a Lesser Bog. They're like, oh my God, that's got to be something to do with Kif and Amy and their kids. Like they're finally
Yeah.
going to touch on this. And so this was a huge, huge thing. And it was only the second episode.
Yeah, we
And
were so invested with this at the beginning
yeah,
because we're
it's
like,
like,
oh my God, what are they going to
what
do
could
with
they
this
do?
kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? There's like 1,000
Yeah.
children kind of thing,
Right.
tadpoles, and
Yeah.
like
And Leela's the parent,
Leela's the
technically.
parent,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
they glossed over this episode. So
Kind
so
of.
unnecessary, so
Yeah.
unnecessary. It should have been a bigger part of it, in my opinion, which they barely touched on because the kids
Well,
kept thinking that Leela was, they're like, Mama, and she's like, nope, wrong again.
right. Well, there's this so the breakdown of this episode essentially is, so it is this: Amy and Kif's children are going to emerge because it's 20 years later in their time as well.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, it's time to be parents, and they go there and they go find their kids. And the final part of their, like, I don't even want to know what to call it, like their birthing ceremony or the ceremony in which they get their
Yeah.
kids, because they have to come out of the bog, hence the name. But only 3 of them survive because they get eaten by all these animals again. So they're not supposed to defend them when they're coming out. So only 3 survive. There's a new kid. The oldest one, I believe his name is Axel, and he's voiced by Kif's actor
Maurice LaMarche.
Maurice LaMarche, thank you.
Oh.
And then Mandy, who I think is the youngest one.
No,
And
I think that's the middle one.
Is that the middle one?
There's basically like a baby, a child, and a teenager.
So who's the middle one again?
There's Axel, Mandy, and Newt. I believe Newt is the youngest.
Newt is the baby. So Mandy is the middle one, and she's played by Laura Tom, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah.
And then Newt is also, or does it not speak or something, or she's
if I remember correctly, Newt was the only one that had one eye too. This is a baby.
Yes,
one eye.
which gives off like the whole thing. So we actually saw Newt in the original series, because she has like that little one eye thing as it's floating around before.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Technically,
guess,
we've seen her. Yeah. But in any case, we get these characters, and yeah, Axel's kind of he's a loner type, whatever, goth, hates everything, whatever character, teenager, right?
Yeah.
And
it's very funny to hear like Kif's voice as like a goth, like oh ma.
But he sounds
like
just like Kif, so I feel like there's
Oh,
not
yeah.
much really added there. But in any case,
just inflections, just inflections.
Right. Mandy's just a little kid acting like a little kid, and Newt is obviously just a even smaller kid.
I just looked us both up. Lauren Tom voices both the younger two, and then Maurice LaMarche does the old one.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, the key thing that they find out is that it's like, why are they all different ages? Like, why do they all appear at different ages? And it's like,
in sizes.
Yeah. Their sizes and their how they speak and all this kind of stuff is because they grew up or they developed in a different part of the bog. This is like the throwaway science thing that they use. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. If you
didn't
need to
bother
have
me at all.
Teenagers and all this kind of stuff, and you need to have characters do different things, whatever. They're not triplets. Essentially, they're just, well, they are, but they're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Any case, at this time, Kif is also called in to be part more of the Nimbus. So Zach Brannigan returns.
Dupe.
And for Dupe, and he has to deal with more of this stuff. So Kif has to go off abroad, leaving Amy alone to raise these kids basically by herself. But she's helped out by Leela, who the kids do typically see as like very, very close because she's like really cool, like the cool aunt, and Amy feels jealous towards her. But then they end up becoming become better friends because of it, and they learn to be like helping each other with the kids while Kif is away. And then Kif returns. And there's a side plot about him dealing with the bears, like those weird
tardigrades. They're called water bears as well, but like tardigrades are like those microscopic single cell organisms.
Yes,
stuff
and
like that.
the nickname is supposed to be something to do with the bear.
Water
right?
bear,
But,
yeah, because they can live in any environment. I think they've even done studies that they can live in space for like a year or something like that. I don't know.
And who do we see as a quick cameo, as you just mentioned, Nerderotics member Barry's thing, the whale biologist who shows up, and he's now the bear biologist, but he hates bears just as much as whales. And
it's pretty good.
It's a throwaway cameo. It's a throwaway joke. Now, the main thing with this episode is I think it's fairly well written. I'd say the lesser part of it is the B plot with Kif and the bear biologist.
And Zap Brannigan, who also, in my opinion, after watching this a few times, has the same kind of voice treatment that Fry had, where he just sounds old. He's not, the best way to say is that he's not bouncy anymore, right? Fry and him aren't bouncy anymore. They don't emote their happiness. Everything's toned down by 0.5%. Which, you know what, Billy West has been doing a great job for the last 40 years, most of my childhood, and a good chunk of my breakfast cereals. So I'm not going to fault him on this at all. People get old.
Right. Well,
but yeah, Zap sounded old.
Yeah, Zap is definitely on the older side there, and as you just said, like he's losing that part of his voice that makes him unique in that sense, right? Yes. Like he's losing that Phil Hartman part of his expression. And also speaking of voices, because this is something that has to be brought up, is and this is to do, I believe, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, but no one's really talked about it. So, as we just mentioned, Billy West has been having some difficulty with voices, at least his like main ones, barring a couple. One voice he also did in the original and the Comedy Central and the movies is, of course, Leo Wong, who they replaced. Lauren Tom stayed, right? They didn't replace Lauren Tom. Billy West was replaced. Now, I was under the impression at first, because I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, that it was because Billy was like, I can't do any more voices, man. Like, I'm already losing it myself.
No, you're wrong, man.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure it is because Billy West is not Chinese, or he's not Asian in any sense. So they replaced him with a Asian American actor. And no disrespect to the actor himself, who's took over. That's not his fault.
Fyodor Chin? It's like Theodore, but with an F.
Fyodor Chin or something? Okay. Yeah. So no disrespect to him, but he sounds nothing like Leo Wong.
Oh, he sounds like it's basically like me doing Leo Wong, and like it's just it's
wrong. It's absolutely wrong. There's no like the comedy of Leo Wong was also how he spoke. This actor does not sound like Leo Wong at all.
No.
And I think that was super jarring when I saw this. So I honestly took points off in my mind for that part of it.
Overall, I completely forgot about it until you just brought it up right now, right? And
it happens a few times.
I'd minus points for it because it's racist in a way to first off, voice actors are supposed to be voices, right? Right? And say that like for some reason I'm doing a character, I made them half black, half Asian for some reason. And you know what? I just can't find the right. Oh, Anthony, your voice, it's perfect.
My voice is great. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I could do that.
Yeah, a little lower.
A little bit lower.
No. Normal voice minus half an octave.
Okay, I can do that.
There we go. There it is. Okay. That is the perfect voice ever. Oh, wait, you can't do that. Well, why? Because he's not.
Because I'm not Asian or black. Right. Yeah. There you go.
But he's the perfect voice. He's what I have envisioned in my mind. Well, you can't do that. We can get someone else to try, but no, just whatever. It's over. It's screwed. I don't like it.
Yeah, and it just sucks in this context because it was not necessary. Leo Wong is such a minor character, and he has no reason to be replaced with somebody else just because Leo Wong is played by a white guy. And
they also did the same thing with voice actor. The News Chang guy. I can't remember what his name was. Also
Scoop Chang. Yeah, Scoop Chang's been replaced too. Yeah, I think it's by the same guy. Oh no, is it by the same guy? Actually, should check that out.
It's by the same guy. Yeah.
Okay, so he took over the Chinese actors.
Yes. There's only two people he changed: Leo Wong and Scoop Chang. Now, since we're on the subject, I will also say that. What was the cop, the robot cop? What was his name?
URL. Yes.
URL. Earl.
Yep.
Earl. He got replaced. John DiMaggio did. And John DiMaggio did a great job on doing an impersonation. I can't remember who it was supposed to be impersonation of, but they changed him as well. Yep. And like it's for some reason, it's always, oh, a white person can't do that. A white person can't do this. A perfect example of this double standard for me is, have you seen How to Train Your Dragon?
The movies, of course.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I love the movies. Probably one of my all-time favorite movies ever, the trilogy. Well, guess what? They have a Spanish woman playing a white Viking girl. No one bats an eye at that.
Right.
Nope. Another great example too is God of War, Kratos. He's played by Christopher.
A Greek guy who's played by
but played by a black guy.
Right.
A perfect voice for that. I love that voice. No one else can do, boy, as good as him, and I have no problem with that. But guess what? It's a race swap thing, and no one bats an eye at that. But oh hey, white person can't play X. But yeah, but Phil Lamar has voiced lots of non-black people, like Samurai Jack, for instance. Wouldn't change it for the world. Wouldn't change it for the world.
No, not at all.
But hey,
Phil Lamar is a wonderful voice actor. Yeah, you can't change his voices. It doesn't matter what they are. But that's, as you just said, that's the double standard that looks like the situation, right? And this is all coming out of that whole atmosphere that people were afraid of getting into because of it. And I believe this is one of the reasons why John DiMaggio was also probably having conversations about whether or not he wanted to return.
Oh, you know what? That would make perfect sense, because Barbados Slim was also voiced by John DiMaggio, and like Earl is now being voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Great voice actor also. But it's just the fact that like, oh hey, we're taking away two of your roles, but I like those roles. Barbados Slim was hilarious, and Earl is also oh baby,
baby. Yeah, no, he's hilarious. Yeah.
And you're taking away two awesome, fun characters for him to do, which I'm gonna guess that he loves to do those two voices. I'm betting he'd love to do those two voices. So that might be a part of it. I never even thought about that being an issue until you just brought that up, and that would be a good reason why he would be like, whoa, you're taking away two things of mine, and you expect me to do less or something? Like why are you doing this?
Yeah, and I believe that's probably what the case was. And then
maybe
that was something else with Billy West
talking about. That makes me a
little
little more angry. Yeah, that makes me more angry now.
Whatever the case, I would say with Children of a Lesser Bog, at least.
Sorry. Back on track.
No. It's good that we talked about because I wasn't sure where the voices were going to come in for this, so we got them out of the way early. But Children of a Lesser Bog, I'd say that you and I agree, fairly well written episode.
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for me.
So you say 8. I'm going to say 7. But the reason that I've docked points, other than what I've talked about already, is because I didn't find this episode that funny.
Oh, it wasn't that funny. No, this is more of like it was a well written Remember Mary. There wasn't a lot of humor.
Yeah, it's a good sequel episode.
Was this the one with the treacle taffy?
I don't remember.
Yes, it was. So. Yes, it was because the reasons why the water bears took Zap Brannigan because he had some in his pocket and they took him away. Oh, they're nuzzling me, Kiff. They nuzzle hard.
Right. So, all right. Well, we'll move on then to episode 3. So, How the West was 101001. So, first off the bat, I'm going to say this episode has like probably the best title of the season. I think this is super clever. And Bender, the whole Planet Express crew basically turned into they go into like this Wild West type of situation because the area they're going to, technology doesn't work, so they have to adapt to it by dressing up and acting like in the old 1800s type of thing, which would be unheard of.
The gold rush era.
But it's like a gold rush. And it's based off of cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. But it's not Bitcoin. It's the thing that allows people to mine for Bitcoin. So it's kind of its own thing, but not really, because Bitcoin is still mentioned quite a bit in it. Any case, they have this whole thing. Dwight's in it. He's brought back, of course, with Hermes, and he's trying to be a good father and all this kind of stuff.
I forgot this.
Fry is, you're going to hear me say this a lot, Fry is completely sidetracked on this episode. Like, he's to the side. No one really cares about Fry whatsoever.
No, he kind of got sidelined for 80%,
sidelined rather.
80%, yep. Like, there's 10 episodes, maybe 3 had him be kind of part of the main cast.
And even then, he's still not the main character. I think maybe the Impossible Stream might be the only time he's like the revolving factor, but even then he's out of the episode for most of it because he's under that weird machine. Like,
that's true.
So
yeah.
I don't.
Holy crap! Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the list here. There was the Impossible Stream, which like was characterized around him.
But
Then there was like
missing.
the Bog, the West.
The Bog is Kif and Amy, and then this one, How the
4.
West was 10011 or 1010001. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. It's
4 was about Leela. 5 was maybe about Leela and Fry a little bit.
Yep, and Bender, because Bender's a little working there.
Let me see. Yeah, no, maybe
Christmas
9.
is Bender and Zoidberg. A little bit of the family stuff, but yeah.
I'm gonna say there's only 2 episodes. There's only maybe 2.5 episodes that are like Fry's kind of a main character, and it's about Fry. Fry went to the future. Futurama was about Fry, and he got sidelined for 70-80% of this season. Absolutely. I'm not happy about that. I remember you weren't happy about that, right? Yeah, no.
Because Fry was always supposed to be I know that at this point, everybody who's watched this episode since you and I have, he was your window into the future.
The fish out of water with him. Yeah.
Yes, he was the one that asked all the questions. He had all the conversations and all this kind of stuff. And people, even though he was dumb, he still made it fun to kind of experience this kind of stuff because he's dumb. He doesn't know how to work anything. So we got to learn how those things worked, right? Now that he's lived in the future at this point in the show for like 20 odd years, he knows the future now, but he still doesn't know everything to know, right? I mean, I don't think Fry and Leela kept their memories from their time together during the finale of the Comedy Central run, but
it was unclear. Yeah,
I don't think they did. So I'm going to say that the professor didn't really age because he was like jumping through time looking for them, and so he found them at the very end of their time before they went, or after they went back to the Vampire State Building. Hence why that's where they start off again. He just found them. But yeah, in any case, How the West was one. I'm not going to say it again. How the West was one.
Binary for 81.
Right. I think that this episode is. I thought it was a fun episode. It's a fun little getaway episode. It has nothing to do with anything aside from the
cryptocurrency. That was such a thing of like 2015. So it's like almost 10 years late. It was 8 years too late for that to be kind of like a current thing, like how South Park or The Simpsons or Family Guy would do it like within 6 months kind of thing, right? Exactly. Or within a year. This was 8 years too late because I remember maybe it was 2016. Like crypto was like up at like $10,000 for one crypto and one Bitcoin. And I was just like
Bitcoin thing, and that was like the major thing, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, and I mean, we could go all day about like what they could have done better for this episode. I'd say it's just overall it's okay. It's like probably like a 6 out of 10 as well for me here.
Yeah. I'd agree with you. 6 out of 10. The 6 out of 10 I think is like the standard for this episode.
Feels like this the season, average. Yeah. Although a couple of episodes are probably really going to bring it down, but I'll say what they could have done, and I think I've heard other people say this as well, is that instead of using the word Bitcoin, if they wanted to do something that was like another currency, they could have used a Futurama-esque thing like they do for every other thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Boom. Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Professor Coin.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, well, we'll keep this at a solid 6. There's not much to say about How the West was won.
Yeah, there was a cool shootout that, like I said, involved 3D rigs of the characters, which is fine, but it's such an odd thing because in real life, the camera, when you're using the camera, it can be moved in any direction, but in animation, it just feels awkward. Again, this is my biggest pick about the animation was this episode.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, and I would say what I hold up, what I hold dear with this episode is that it was kind of a unique thing in its own sense. Yes, I would have been in a different type of currency type of thing, but I do like the idea. I do enjoy seeing Dwight and Hermes kind of have this kind of relationship. I like seeing Bender and
what's the crazy robot's name? I can't remember at the moment.
Roberto. Roberto comes back, but also the not the Sundance Kid, but he's like playing off the Sundance Kid because that's what
Borax. Botox.
The Borax Kid or something. Yeah, and Fry's like super into his novels and everything, so that was kind of like that little side thing. I thought that was okay. But overall, it was just kind of a very mediocre story, but it was okay. I like I said, just okay. 6 out of 10.
I might knock it down to 5.5, but I'll agree with you for 6.
It's around that area, right? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Episode 4. Parasites
Can we just
Regained.
skip this one? It's the worst one ever. Like I'd give it a 2 out of 10 just because.
No, we have to discuss why it comes to this, because it's important, and it's important for anybody who even has the glimmer, the chance to even get this point across to the creators and the writers of these shows.
Don't hire Mia Williams. She's terrible.
This is how you do a horrible sequel episode. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen, and this is including all television. Parasites Regained is an insult to Parasites Lost, and to Fry, and to Leela, and to almost everyone in this show. It's absolutely horrible. Basically, Nibbler's sick, so Leela and the crew go on this mission to his litter box, because apparently there's something in there that is causing the illness or something. She doesn't go down with him at first. It's the rest of them looking for it, because she's there with him, taking care of him or whatever, and they have like this little adventure because he's slowly going dumb, because he speaks. He's an intelligent creature.
Yep.
And Frank Welker does return. Frank Welker does return, and yes, you kind of do hear a change in his voice, but he's still.
This was very noticeable to me. This was This was like 5 times more noticeable to me than Fry.
Sure.
Especially watching it first time.
Yeah, and it sucks, because like Nibbler is like thousands of years old at this point, but now he really sounds like old. But
he's not cutesy tootsy. He's more like oldie moldy. There you go, moldy.
And so the crew and those people go to his litter box to try and figure out what's going on, what's causing him to have to basically be dumb or dumbed down, and it's a Dune ripoff, first of all, which on its own could have been really, really cool, but they throw in the worms, the parasites from Fry way back when. And
that was one of the best episodes ever, in my opinion.
It is.
It was the start. It was the start of Leela starting to go, maybe Fry isn't so bad.
Yes, it's one of these. Exactly.
It also led to
one of the Fry? What did they do with Fry in this episode?
Push him aside. They push him aside.
Sideline. Absolutely.
I couldn't even tell you what. Oh
my god!
I think I can remember one line. It was like, "Wasn't I your universe?" And then the words like, "Well, you don't know."
Exactly. It's
throwaway.
It's Luke Skywalker taking his father's lightsaber and throwing it behind him. Episode 8, beginning of episode 8 of Star Wars, disregarding character and disregarding people who are any part of anything. Fry literally was their universe, and they don't remember him. And Fry barely remembers them. It's like, oh, hey, wasn't I one of these? It's a throwaway gag that's supposed to be like a wink to the audience, and that's it. It has nothing to do with anything. And it was so disappointing, because, again, this is one of those episodes when we got those titles and we saw Parasites Regained. We're like, oh, my God, they're going to go back to the parasites. Who's going to get them? Or are they going to be the parasites? Or is something else going to happen where they need to get the parasites because Fry needs something from them that they gave him when he had them and he forgot? Something like this.
If I remember correctly, I think that the big everyone kind of like thought that the theory was that Leela was going to get the worms.
Right.
I remember that being one of the bigger theories about this episode.
And Fry could have been like, they're not worth it. Don't. He could have had like a heartfelt connection with somebody about like,
they
these
could have
things
done,
are not you. Yeah.
What was that Bradley Cooper movie when he ate the pill and became super
Limitless.
smart? Limitless. They could have done a Limitless thing with this, and that would have been a little better.
Limitless.
Yeah, something like that. But the parasites would have been more important, right? Parasites Regained. Just she was smarter. She could do everything she wanted to, because Leela has ambition. She has ambition in life. She doesn't want to. She wants to be the best captain to ever be, kind of thing, and stuff like that. They could have done so much with this.
She could have been the worst person ever because she's
BS.
Right. And as you and our friends who joined us on the podcast way back like a few weeks ago, and we discussed the what if, when Leela has just a little bit more impulsiveness, she turns into a murderer. Imagine if she was perfect. Imagine if she could accomplish everything she could. But in any case, it's not about us to talk about what if in this situation. Maybe one day they will. Probably not.
No, it's going to be canceled after next season. I bet.
But Parasites Regained, it was just unfortunate. It was an absolute unfortunate thing that they could have done with these episodes, with this particular episode and idea. And it's
I'm going to give you 2 names of the episodes. I want you to rate them out of 10 very quickly. The Da Vinci Code.
8 out of 10.
That one? 8 out of 10? Okay.
8 out of 10.
Assy Came Home.
Ooh, 6 out of 10.
All right. Those 2 episodes had the same writer as this episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Da Vinci Code I thought was awesome. I
I
still
like
quote
I
Da
like
Vinci
the
Code for a lot of
I
things.
like the theory of
But
that one, but
yeah.
it was written by Maya Williams, and she and her husband both have done episodes for Futurama. Her husband wrote the first episode of this season, which was okay, right? But I think he has a bigger belt of load of stuff that he did. But like, yeah, I like Da Vinci Code, and Actually Come Home was kind of like a play on words that wasn't really
Yeah,
necessary in my opinion. The
Acid
episode
Comes
itself wasn't
Home is this.
terrible,
Yeah, it
but like
plays
it
on
just
this of Bender like having a shiny metal ass, right? Which he
yeah
keeps
yeah
on talking. But
yeah.
honestly, it is just
She
you know what? It is like the equivalent I would say to like How the West was won. I think that this is like a very much like one of those. It's a fun little episode. It has a few fun jokes, but it doesn't really play well with everything. It doesn't add anything to Futurama as a whole, I would say.
No. So the reason why I bring her up is because she has another episode for next part 2 of the episode's called One is Silicone and the Other is Gold, which you and I love that episode, which
Ooh,
that
yeah.
might be alluding to, which is the one where
Mhm.
they go into different universes.
The
One
Parabox,
of our
yeah.
one of our favorite ones, and we love that one, right? And
Mhm.
so if that episode has anything to do with another universe and she
Mhm.
screws it up, it just proves that she has nothing, and maybe she got help with the other two. Like I don't know,
Maybe.
whatever. So
That
yeah.
or yeah, she was allowed to do whatever she wants with them because at this point it's been 10 years and even longer for the Parabox episode, right?
Because that was part
Who
of the original
knows?
series. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, you're right. Parasites Regained.
2 out
I
of
mean,
10.
2 out of 10.
Yeah, it was 100% a
Easily.
failure. I don't know where
Easily.
I'd rate it, but like I think because the
It's low.
potential that we wanted out of it was so much higher. And yes, that's a little bit on us. I'm not going to say that we put more love into what we wanted to see than what happened.
Yeah.
But it was just
But I
awful.
feel like
It was just
we could have
awful.
put more love into that episode and we would have done a better sequel.
Yes.
I that's what I would say. That's why I would say it's low. Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll throw like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, whatever. Like just
It was a bad failure, not a good
It's a
failure. It was
bad
a
episode.
bad failure. Yeah.
It's a bad episode.
We're being nice here. We're being very nice. Anthony and I were
Yeah,
using very choice words in the car. We were talking to each other about this.
If we had watched this, if we did like a live replay of watching this episode and pausing it every time we had something wrong with it, it'd be like over an hour.
2 hours long.
Yeah, it's not worth it. So we'll move on here to episode 5, the related to items you viewed. So this is where Bender starts working for Mamazon. So here we go. This is where they take like an idea and they Futuramaize it, as they say, right? So yep. Mamazon is obviously Amazon, and she has a corporation that's on the moon that's dealing with delivery and packages. But the fun thing about this episode, and this is one we can give credit to, it focuses on Fry, but it also focuses on Fry and Leela's relationship.
Because Leela moves into Fry and Bender's apartment.
Yes, and
Bender has
jealous.
an issue with it. Yeah, as we've seen for multiple episodes, Bender is a jealous dick.
Yes, this is a very good blend of those three having chemistry. Mitchell, who wrote this episode? Does it say there?
Written by David A. Goodman, which I believe he's
been
done
around
quite
for
a while.
Yeah, so he knows the characters. He knows this idea very well. The idea of it is great. I think that Mamazon owning this corporation, all this kind of stuff, is a wonderful idea for her character. It totally makes sense. I love seeing her sons. I'm a huge fan of Mom.
Me too, yeah.
And Tress MacNeille knocks it out of the park. Her voice hasn't aged. And if it has, it blends in very well with how crazy Mom is. I don't care. The sons are also fine. I will say, because I think this is the first episode we see them back, right? Like Mom
all of them? Mom? Yes.
Right. They have yet to talk about or ever even acknowledge the professor's relationship with Ignar.
Yes, from the third
Bender's
movie.
game. Yeah, they have. And honestly, that's not a problem with the Hulu one. This is like a Comedy Central issue as well. They never touched upon it either, but they have yet to do it, and I don't know why. They're just afraid of going into like father-son material, but they've done it before with Fry. I don't know.
Not to rag on Hollywood, but to rag on Hollywood, they don't like good father relations anymore.
Right?
Is someone young, male or female? Yes, male or female, cannot learn from an older male. Can't happen.
But that's the fun, is that the whole episode could be basically just the professor tried to teach Ignar to like live his life on his own, and Ignar's just too dumb to do it. Like he can't do it. Like it would have been funny. They're opposites. They're complete opposites. But any case, not the point of this episode.
Maybe in the next season we might get that. Who knows?
Maybe one of the episodes will touch upon.
There we go. The temp. They might bring Ignar in.
Oh, sure. We'll You and I, you called it first. I'll be here right now witnessing it. If you called it, I'll be like, Mitchell called that. Yeah, I would say that this episode. So overall, related to items you viewed, I would say this is a pretty solid episode. I'd say maybe 7 out of 10. It ranks out with stream. I did not like the ending. Everybody loves the ending. I hated the ending of this episode, honestly.
Yeah,
even though I still rank it 7. But
it's one of those things where it's just like nanobots eat the entire universe kind of thing and become bigger than the universe. It's like, okay,
expand faster than the universe, and I'm like, no. I can't get it. No, that means all of Mamazon controls the whole universe. Like, she owns everything.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of consequences that come with this action, and they're just gonna do it. They're just gonna like, oh, that doesn't matter. It's like
exactly.
It does
nothing.
matter.
Yeah.
Like we get it. This is a cartoon. We love this cartoon, and this season has made us start to dislike it, which that should not be a case.
We started a podcast to love this show, and this is what they feed us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But in any case, I enjoyed most of the episode, but I did think the ending was dumb.
Agreed.
They could have easily.
I think you and I will say the same thing for another episode that people love.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll get to that one. All right, next one here. And so I think this is the one you were referencing or alluding to earlier with the timey-wimey stuff, right?
Yeah, okay. You didn't like this one because of the timey-wimey stuff.
Well, so episode 6
specifically the timey-wimey stuff.
For sure. Well, I know what you did next Xmas. And so again, I would put high props for the naming of this episode. I think it's right up there with 1010001. This is the idea of let's see here. Xmas has been dominated by evil robot Santa. And we know this from the previous series and all this kind of stuff. And the professor has an idea to use his forwards only going time machine, which he's now recalibrated to be able to go backwards. And I think they also throw in another time. This is like the 17th time this joke has come up when he's like, yeah, now don't go in here, Fry, because I don't want you going back to the past and screwing your own grandmother. And they make another joke about that to his expense. But it's funny because it's such a giant callback. Again, right? Another little wink.
Remember Barry?
At the camera, right? So the professor goes back in time. And I think to like when the Santa Claus was first doing his whatever, and he turns a little notch on his back. We don't know this at the time, but that Santa thing that he does ends up actually being the result of why he's evil in the first place, which I thought was brilliant. That's a really good idea.
It's
it's basically it's the first type of time travel where it's like your actions are the reason that the future exists in the first place, and you going back in time has no consequence to it. This is a very good and very well written form of time travel. I highly respect it. I did, however, get a little confused. So throughout this whole thing, everybody disappears to, be with their family. So Kif and Amy and their kids, right? They go and have their lives.
Kif and Leela's kids. Yeah.
Right.
And Amy.
And Amy, right? And Leela and Fry, the professor, and Hubert go to, I guess, Farnsworth
their cabin. Yeah,
they have a cabin somewhere in the Alps or I don't know. They're somewhere. And Leela goes with her family, and then the whole families get together, and then Hermes and his family, right? So the only people who are left over are Bender and Zoidberg. Another thing is
an odd couple that we don't see much of.
Well, we do. We just don't see them in like this kind of predicament, right? Because Zoidberg always says like Bender's like one of his closest colleagues, right? And Bender just keeps on like insulting him or beating him. Like he did like put him into a pet show. That was Bender, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah. In any case, they're put together. The issue I had with this is that, okay, sure, Bender doesn't really have anyone he can really go to, but he can always go with Fry. He was always going with Fry.
Doesn't he have like a few kids?
He does. Actually, yeah. Throw in Ben. Ben may have forgotten him though. Actually.
Ben would have forgotten him, but there's also that one joke with the second movie where he
murdered that child. He doesn't have him either. Yeah. So in any case, Bender either lost his kids or he's murdered his whatever. Doesn't matter. He doesn't really have anybody. Zoidberg, however, is supposed to have someone. In fact, the Comedy Central.
Right. Yes.
And they did such a good job at having the Comedy Central run finish on a high note with Zoidberg. And they totally overshadowed it. They don't even mention. Yeah.
Amelia Clark was the voice of his girlfriend.
Amelia Clark, that's right. Yeah. And she was the girl who. What's her name?
Amelia Clark.
Yeah, but do you remember the character's name?
Oh no idea. I can't remember. The whole thing for that one is she didn't have a nose. So
So
she had a nose.
could
She didn't have a
smell.
sense of smell. And of course, Zoidberg is like one of the smelliest characters ever exists in the universe. But the thing is, he gave her her ability to smell back, and he was so sad about it because she's gonna hate me because I smell.
Well,
But then he gave her flowers. She's like, flowers! You smell
yeah, turns out
terrible.
she loved the way he smelled.
Yes, he
And
loved. And she became a garbage man.
yeah, and she's like, I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with you because like you smell great to me, kind of thing. And it was like such a
Yeah,
beautiful episode, very heartfelt. We don't see her again, but this is like literally like the third or the fourth last episode of the Comedy Central run.
I think it was second
And
last.
no, second last is one of my favorites actually. It was the Murder on the Planet Express. That was the second last episode, I believe.
Oh,
Maybe no, third last may have been Game of Tones. So I'm pretty sure it's fourth. It's stench and stenchability or something. But in any case,
no, it is the second last one.
it is the second last.
Yeah, yeah. It goes Leela, Genestock, Game of Tones, Murder on the Planet Express, then Stench and Stenchability, then Meanwhile.
Oh, it is second. Oh, okay. So they finish on Zoidberg very, very highly then, very close to the end.
Oh yeah.
So any case,
being on Reddit too, I go in there every so often and look at Futurama stuff, and people are like, "Where is she? Where is she?"
right? Yeah, people are like concerned. They're like, what happened to Zoidberg's happy ending? Finally, somebody was with the Zoidberg, and he could have had development. No, and we don't even get a notice of like, oh, maybe she's visiting her family. She's from the UK. From her accent, she's from the UK. She could have traveled home. She could have visited her family, and maybe she
Amelia Clark maybe was too busy or something like that. Because I know because she had a couple brain seizures or aneurysms or something like that over the past of 10 years or something like that. So she I don't think she's been acting for a while. So maybe there's something to do with that. Though I might be over speculating here.
Maybe something to do with that. But it's not like they can't recast characters. They do it all the time.
No, I hope she's okay either way.
Of course. I mean, yeah, no disrespect or anything to Amelia Clark, but having that character not come back to deal with Zoidberg is unfortunate.
She was too busy doing another terrible show. The Nick Fury one. What was that one called?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was in friggin' Secret Invasion. There you go. That's why she couldn't join. Yeah. So she was.
There we go. Found a perfect excuse for her.
She was being the perfect, most powerful character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point. Like literally. So, any case, I did like this episode. Your thoughts on this episode then?
This is one of the better ones in my opinion. So I'll say 8. No, 7.5. 7.5.
Yeah, I'll go 7. Like I think it's fun, and I do understand more about the time travel of it. But
I like the relationship that Bender and Zoidberg had and stuff with it when they went to go kill and kidnap Santa and stuff like that. And I also love the little family stuff that they did with Professor Cubert and Fry. Yeah, I love that. I love the Amy Wong family photo because Amy's parents, don't like their grandkids. They think they're ugly and weird. So there's a little bit of nod to that. LaBarbara and Dwight and Hermes, that was fun. Leela with her parents down in the sewers.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Grandmother. Yeah, we see the grandmother again. Yeah, and then of course with Bender and Zoidberg, do they go into the far future again? They go millions.
Yeah, this is where the timey-wimey stuff. Like
this is the issue.
You didn't understand because like did they go back in time and then forward in time and then back in time, or did they go forward the whole way around a few times?
I've heard somebody argue that the time in this show is cyclical, and I'm like, well.
Yeah, I don't.
When was that proven? Like I thought there was even a joke about that because Fry, when he's working at the cryostasis place where Leela used to work or whatever, and he has
someone else come out through the.
Well, what's his? Yeah, some guy.
Not Paul Shore. It was a different guy. It was a different guy.
It was different. Yeah, not Paul Shore. The other. Yeah. Right, and he's like, oh yeah, I thought that time was cyclical, so I thought I would go around, and he's like, nope, straight line. Like they verify it. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of a throwaway.
I think more or less because there's that one episode. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one where this machine's from, where they just go forward in time. That the next universe happens to always be 10 feet lower or something like that every time.
Right.
So that's the only way that I could like it would make sense for me that like time isn't really technically cyclical, but it's 10 feet lower every time.
Right. And then they
destroying
their paradoxes.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't include that in this one. So
remember you and I figured something out as well, because we're like, well, wait a minute, if they keep on going to like this one and this one, then the Professor.
This is what happens with the last episode. The whole thing.
Right.
There's layers above and above and above.
Yeah, like
kind of thing.
it can't be a cyclical thing. Otherwise, we keep on. Yeah, it's anyway. I actually really like the original time with the forward moving time machine. I thought that was a beautiful written episode.
Love the
and
song
it kind
on
of
that
is.
One too.
It is, yeah, it is kind of funny that they do go on to this stuff, and their explanation is that the universe just kind of coincides with the same way that it did in their previous two universes kind of idea. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Right. But like that would make this kind of, that is inconceivable now that is not the case.
Yeah.
So
well, I think they honestly, it was the same universe. They just kept going that like back 20, 70 years and then forward one extra year. It was just weird. It was just odd.
Yeah.
Like so it's one of those things where you can't put too much thought into it, because if you do, it kind of breaks things. But if they start to claim, oh yeah, they went to the next universe and back and then forward to 3 universes, then we can question them and call them out in their BS.
Yeah,
because like
somewhere along the line, there's got to be a bender that did that, and then they would have crashed onto their show or whatever, right? Or their universe. Okay, number 7, rage against the vaccine. So I think this is actually the one episode I think you and I differ on a little bit in terms of how we feel towards it. And I think I know why, being that if you recall, and if the viewers of this show or listeners of the show would have remembered from before in our conversations, I was in a very different location to where Mitchell was when COVID
2019 happened, or 2020 happened.
Yeah, exactly where you guys, or many of the listeners would be listening to it, where you guys were when that happened. I still refrain from trying to call it COVID-19 because I think that was an issue. We'll just say a political issue made unnecessary for the wrong reasons.
The Wuhan flu.
Right. And this episode really showed me a little bit more about the psyche of what was going on, not with America, nothing against America, but with the Hollywood elites and the people in America who don't know what was going on with anything. So I think that this is a very big thing when I see a disease called Explovid 23 comes out, and there's even like a little joke saying like, oh, COVID-19 lockdown number 3 ends today, and everybody's cheering. That's why they're all out there. And I'm like, this is such a bad joke, because like people honestly died. Like a lot of people died from this, and a lot of people got really angry. A lot of people lost their jobs. This is like something where people can make fun of this now, because back in the day, if you made fun of this, those people were horribly ostracized, and a lot of bad things happened to good people. Any case, I won't get into the politics of it, but watching this episode and Hermes saying that the way to cure this was it voodoo, right? Voodoo, because any good magic is indistinguishable by of science or whatever the backwards thing was. Oh. And he and the professor are like at odds or something, because of course the professor's all about science. I thought it was just a bad episode. This is like, it's so dumb. Not to mention the Barbados Slim and the Barbara, like, oh, they're still secretly cheating on Hermes. They're still doing all this stuff. I love seeing Barbados Slim. I'm sad that his voice is replaced, but again, like, it's still funny to hear him banter with Hermes. I like that.
Yep.
But this episode is just dumb. It's just dumb. They keep on stabbing freaking needles through little like character dummies, because it's voodoo, into their arm. But it's still I don't know. I just
I think they just wanted to make a point about like, hey, this is how they would handle this in the future with stupidity. I did not. I thought this episode made fun of both sides, in my opinion, pretty equally.
It did make fun of both sides.
Which was very rare to see. Which is very rare to see, because they're always going to be like anti-vaxxers. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, no. We're not anti-vaxxers. We're anti this particular vaccine kind of thing. So stop lumping us in with other people and blah 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 blah. But yeah, the whole voodoo thing, which could have been so much better. The whole thing was like Hermes went on a journey just to find out, it's La Barbara again, but he went to New Orleans from New York.
Right.
Like it was not written very well.
There's a lot of like these like spice jokes and everything like that only pertain to Hermes.
Yeah.
But yeah, LaBarbera says like, "Oh, don't go there, husband. You have to do this and don't do that." And then he's like, "No, wife, I have to go do it." And then he leaves, and it turns out it's her. It's her the
Yeah,
whole time.
and like didn't I think they've like resolved the La Barbara and Barbados Slim thing like three
they should
times
have.
now, and
Yeah.
she's always chosen Hermes, and
Yeah.
that was before the Fool happened, or I think even the Comedy Central one. I
Yeah.
think they did that like within the first few episodes. Like
Well, I think in
they put out they slammed the door on that, man.
the very
And
first movie, they actually had her like go back to Hermes because he
yeah, boy
loses
needs
his
a daddy.
head, right?
Yeah,
Boy needs a
boy needs
daddy,
a
and
daddy.
all this, right?
And
Right.
like it's stupid.
Yeah.
Uh,
This is an episode. I think it's only for like it's for those one-off jokes and for those again wink at the camera like, oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that kind of situation? And like, oh, hey, it's okay to make fun of the virus now because we're so far from it. And
yeah, it's 1,000 years in the future.
Maybe we overreacted in a few things and didn't think about other things as carefully as we should have. And maybe we didn't question the results of certain things. And maybe we didn't ask where things came from.
Sides, yeah.
Like this is it's ridiculous. And
4
honestly,
out of 10.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that I mean, maybe this is probably my side. The fact that they don't even mention like, oh, hey, Explovid could have come. Oh, okay, actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna say this: that Omicronian like variant of it, clever play on words.
Yes.
Clever play on words. That was actually pretty good. However, them saying like, oh yeah, this foreign entity like didn't close their borders fast enough and it got out and it spread across and they tried to cover it up. I'm like, oh, that would have been really good, but they didn't even touch upon it. Didn't even mention.
Nope.
Where does Explovid even come from? It's nothing. It's nothing. Like that was the mindset, and I was just like, nope, I'm done with this.
It was about the jokes and not the actual content.
Right, and they could have made
third episode of this season that's like that. It's like it's more about the jokes than it is about the actual thing. All right, fine.
So just not good.
4 or 5 out of 10. Like I said, it's either like a bear pass or like a bear fail.
Right. When we go into episode 8, Zappa gets canceled.
An amazing episode idea.
Yeah.
Now, how was it executed?
Poorly. So if Rage gets the vaccine, makes me pissed off at like the elite and all this kind of stuff. The like what was going on this side of the planet, on the let's say the western side, the western world. Zap gets canceled is the stupidity of the people. Because this is like I don't even know what was going on here. Like as you just said, Zap gets canceled is a brilliant idea. I wouldn't call it that. I wouldn't call it Zap gets canceled. I might say
I wouldn't call that either.
Might say like, oh, maybe I don't know, Zap goes away or something. Something easier than that or something, right?
Consequences have Zap or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
something along the lines of that.
Or get zapped in the ass. So, I don't know. Something where you play on his name or something, right?
Yeah.
But like Zap gets canceled. So this is the idea of
cancel culture.
Zap Brannigan, the Captain Zap Brannigan, right? The Zapton Cap Brannigan is under not court martial, but he's under like investigation because Kiff basically tells Dupe, the organization that we work for, that
Democratic Organization of Planets,
that Zap has been very, very inappropriate with him and many, many, many times, and probably with many other things and many other people. Now, what you and I just said, this is absolutely true. We've seen this throughout the whole series. Like this is a perfect episode to really get onto this because Zap has done a lot of bad stuff. He's the first thing that we ever find out about Zap. Do you remember the first thing that we ever did?
Wasn't he beat the killbots?
Right, by
sacrificing man after man until the killbots ran out of killing tokens or whatever the word is.
Until their kill count went too high. Yeah, exactly. Yes, they shut down once they reach a kill count of probably like 9,999 or something, right? They just couldn't go over that next number, so they shut down. So Zap has...
Here's my favorite quote of his is probably would have been a great thing to say. I find the most erotic part of the woman is the boobies.
Right. Which Kiff was absolutely there for. Mind you, in the defense of that, Zap was not working when that happened, but he did he did take over that ship afterwards when it started to crash because of him. But again, so yeah, he's crashed flying bistros. He's sent many countless people to their deaths. He's constructed like a bomb to destroy like a planet when he invaded. Like that was him.
The ball episode.
The
That's
ball
another
planet.
good one. War is the H word.
Right. He's even in the Comedy Central run, he tried to he used Leela's mom because she was a translator. He used her to try and like get them to commit war on Earth so they would have a reason to like attack and retaliate on them. Like Zap's a horrible person. We know he is, and he's hilarious because he's also he's the worst. He's just one of the worst characters. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a good side, but he's obviously just a bad guy. This was a brilliant idea. But what did they make Zap Brannigan? Donald Trump. Because you can't have this kind of character be themselves. They have to be an analogy for Donald Trump in some regard. So Kif gets him into this investigation. They have a court dealings, and all the things that they say. He did. Oh, I can't remember. Actually, one of them, I think this is a play on Justin Trudeau as well, in like a small form, whatever, where they said like the green face. And he's like, oh, it was a Halloween costume. Like this is like played on for laughs or whatever. Got him to like shave his armpits, do all these kinds of things, which I have no doubt that Zap has done.
Lower.
Yeah, exactly. But this is like, instead of using all these little like tropist or Trumpist or other kind of things, they could have honestly used examples from Zap Brannigan's past.
Continuity. The show that has been really well known for continuity refused to use it a lot this season.
Yes, and especially this episode. Yeah.
Actually, I take it back. The ones that were good, that looked good or promising, did not use this at all. And I think whoever had anything to do with this episode, I think specifically had Trump derangement syndrome. Like it was just. Oh. It was very sad.
Yeah, they all do, man. It sucks. But it's also like even going back to the Parasites Regained thing. Like talk about callback. Like all we see of the worms is they show up and it turns out they're working towards something else or whatever. But if you remove the worms from that episode, nothing changes.
Yeah,
they were useless, and it was supposed to be a sequel to them, kind of thing, right? This is played on a very similar thing. We have this whole thing. Zap has an entire investigation, entire court dealing with all of his past atrocities, and these are things we've never seen before. It's all played for some kind of stupid joke at Donald Trump's expense, who, guess what, doesn't care. No. He doesn't care, and nobody about that who likes him or whatever doesn't care. This is for deaf ears. Not for Futurama fans, and it's not for people who like, oh yeah, that was kind of on Trump. Like no one cares. So yeah, fell fairly flat.
And guess what? He could have literally got away with it too because he has a learning disability, a very sexy learning disability, which is called what? Sexlexia.
Sexlexia.
So
exactly
playing with their own rules, he could have gotten away with it.
That's true. That's very very true. And it is a disappointment. I will say a couple of lines in this episode do make me laugh, but it's not because
it's Zap Brannigan because he has great lines. He's one of those people that gets great lines.
Sure, but it wasn't actually because of Zap Brannigan per se. I actually will say Zap Brannigan bothered me in this episode because it doesn't sound enough like him for an episode that's focused on him because of what's going on with Billy West. And that's not say, but that's honestly like my opinion for it. But it wasn't Zap Brannigan. It was actually the guy who pretended to be there to what is he trying to do? Like, right. And they do this whole thing. So Zap gets in trouble, right? Because he even does this thing with like the female dupe executive or administrator, whatever her title is. And he starts like rubbing her back inappropriately. It says, oh, you should smile more. You're prettier when you're like totally like being an asshole guy. Right?
Guess what? Women do look prettier when they're happy though.
Everybody looks better when they smile. That's just kind of a typical thing.
You look handsomer when you smile. I look less dopey when I smile. Everyone looks better when they smile. It's a great thing to make someone smile.
It's just like it's seen as like, all you care about are my looks kind of thing, right? This is the microaggression. And I quote this microaggression that people see in this, like, oh no, I'm just trying to give you like a hint, like you don't have to be so sad, like smile, the day will be better. No, it's not like that, and it's definitely not played for that because he's clearly rubbing her back. He's saying, oh, you should smile more. You're pretty when you smile, and she's like glaring at him. Basically, court-martials him, like fires him, gets him out. He has to take sensitivity training.
That is such a stupid
sensitivity
idea.
training in the fucking future of, oh my god, I couldn't believe this. Now, the characters who he has to be paired up with in this sensitivity training, I thought were kind of funny. And the guy who pretends to be the trainer and he keeps on like insulting them because that's the only way they're going to get sensitive or whatever. And it turns out he's actually the worst of them. I thought that was funny. I thought that was a fun little twist. The B plot of this is also that Leela is not happy.
She took over.
Right. She's not happy being on the Planet Express crew, right? She doesn't want to be that captain anymore, so she gets a promotion for dupe because they need a new captain. And of course, like a female pilot, like, oh my god, you're the perfect fit for this, so they bring her in, and then she's allowed to bring, for whatever reason, 2 random people with her as her like co-pilots or co-people or whatever, and she chooses Fry and Bender.
I mean, didn't Bender just like yeah, I'm going to, like, it was supposed to be Leela or something?
No, well, Leela took over.
Leela, Amy. I mean,
supposed to be no. I think it was it was literally like, oh yeah, I'll go with. Fry was like, I'll go with you, and then Bender was like, oh okay, I got nothing better to do.
It was supposed to be for the professor. Then Bender body checked him out and said to me,
right. Sure,
because and yeah, exactly. This if they just somehow if this episode happened of Zap was sick or something like that, and Leela, Fry, and Bender had to take over for Dupe as the captain or something like that could have been a great episode.
That would have been funny. That would have been a really funny concept. Yeah.
That would have been a Futurama episode where the main 3 have to do something and hijinks ensues.
Yep. And Zap enough. Yeah. Or it honestly could have been something like this where Zap is undergoing some kind of disciplinary charges because of his actions over the course of like years and years, and they could have even had like a little montage of all the things that have been talked about. That kid could have named every single thing, and it could have even been this like fade to like, here's Kiff starting it, and then fades over as he's continuously talking, and then it goes into like the ending portion of it, like an hour has passed and everyone's like, oh my god, like Zap is horrible, and then they finally realize. So Zap has to go through disciplinary charges, and then he calls on Leela to like, hey, as the one who's only ever loved me, can you like take over for me or something? And maybe she just does it out of like, who knows, out of some kind of idea, whatever.
Here's you just made me remember something of continuity. Yeah. Whenever there's some kind of discipline hearing, they're supposed to be in that chair that does the beeping, right, with the pedal, beep 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 beep. So there's a continuity thing right there. Again, this season, the people who write the shows, well, not all of them, but we'll say the ones that didn't have anything to do with Futurama previously,
right? They
don't give a shit about the previous Futurama because that didn't happen because they weren't a part of it, so therefore it's bad. Mm-hmm. Now they're a part of it, so now Futurama's good. So yeah, it's just one of those things, right? But I love that thing with, because that's another one with Zap Brannigan with 1 beep means yes, 2 beep means no. Are you guilty? Beep beep beep. Double yes.
Exactly. You like. Right, and honestly,
and he could have done that too. He could have done the exact same thing to get out of it.
Like, no, I was saying double yes.
No, I was saying no, you said double yes.
It's like, oh, you used it against me. Like, right, there could have been a lot of fun things there, and that would have been a callback to friggin' season 3 or 4, right? With the Star Trek episode.
I think that was season 4,
5 maybe. Is it season 4 or the finale of season 4 maybe? Like it was a long time.
Called again? Fans, something about fans.
Where no fan has ever gone before or something. Yeah. So it's
season 5, episode 11, according to Wikipedia. I don't know if that's quite within our thing. Okay. So
when we go to our thing, we'll figure it out.
Oh no, wait, hold on. That one was in April of 2002, but it said the episode previous was the Why Fry, which was in 2003. So that one is probably.
I think it was the season finale of 4, but I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Point is, it happened a very long time ago, like over 20 years at this point.
Great episode.
And yes, absolutely great episode. Hilarious episode. But this one, no, it lacks a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It does also show the corruption that is Dupe as well. So it does kind of play on both sides because like that. Honestly, I wish I knew her title, but I guess like we'll just call her the director. The director of Dupe
which is another amphibian Kif
yeah,
species.
she looks very much like Kif. Yeah.
And honestly, I wish there was some kind of relationship between them where she's like an older sister or something like that, which is how he got into Dupe. And because of connections, she's like, I can get you to be the first officer kind of thing, right?
Right. It's like that's the only reason he's in it in the first place.
Guess
he's
what?
like a meek coward. Yeah. But then it turns out he's not. He's strong.
That idea is too smart for these dumb new writers.
Yeah, it's probably not even thought of. They're like, oh yeah, they're like the same alien or something. Oh wait, is that going to play on that trope that like everybody who looks like somebody like looks the same as somebody else, they must be related? Like, oh, we can't do that. It's like,
I love it. When we were in Japan together, it's like, oh, you know Dave from Canada? Like we know a few Daves from Canada. Where does he live? I think he lives in Toronto. Oh, none of us would even know who the hell he is.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, Zap gets canceled. I definitely throw this at like easily a 4. Easily a 4. It's not as bad as Rage Against the Vaccine or Parasites Regained, but
it's a failure. I would say it's a failure. Yeah,
definitely a 4.
4.5 out of 5 out of 10. Yeah, 4.5 out of 10. I'll say.
There you go. Yeah. Like I said, there are some elements that make me like chuckle. Like I do like the guy on his arms or whatever, and he's kind of loud and obnoxious. I like that. I thought that was
played by John DiMaggio, probably because they had to take away a few voice roles from him.
Oh, right. He had to play another asshole. Mind you, would you note it? Maybe I'm misremembering. Is that guy like super white?
No, he's an alien, like gray skin or something like that.
It's gray though, right? Okay, yeah. I just remember him being very like pale. But in any case.
Well, sorry. Before we finish that, the whole one of the reasons why I did like this is because the guy is a groby grabber or whatever, a gropey dude.
Right.
But they're also on
right.
on this not Dupe associated planet where they're all like to be groped. So it's what kind of message is that? Where like grope us, but they weren't saying that, but like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's all over the freaking place. It's like
definitely written by a stupid activist who has no
concept of what's going on.
No concept.
Right. They ban Zap Brannigan for inappropriate behavior. Then they make Leela, and I'm pretty sure it's thrown in there as like a female captain. I'm pretty sure the director says that to her.
Yep.
But whatever the case, and Leela is a great captain, like no doubt about that. She's done a really good job for many years. She's hired on. She gets Brian Bender to go with her. She on her first patrol, the director is overseeing it, and they go to a planet where yes, there's aliens that like to be groped. Leela feels uncomfortable in this situation, and so she doesn't want to go with their customs or their culture, which would be an insult. So they won't get what they need, which is like some kind of air thing,
an unlimited source of air. So basically, it's a perpetual motion thing where it's just it can go forever kind of thing. There's no drawback. Blah blah blah. Just fuel. It's an infinite source of fuel, basically.
Right. So ironically, this would have been the perfect mission for Zap Brannigan
because
he would have got that no problem. So
yeah. And one of my other favorite lines of Zap Brannigan is like, "Kif, I've made it with a woman. Tell the crew or inform the men. Right. So it would have been another one. It's like, I made it with a hot alien.
Right.
Yeah, guys.
Like, I got the air because I was able to grope air. I did what no man would do or whatever. Right?
Exactly. And it's one of those speeches like I did something that none of you would have done because of your courtesies and niceties.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, exactly because of your like whatever you want, PC politics or whatever. You wouldn't do this, and you'd be right. He saved Dupe in their little thing, whatever they were trying to do with his hair. And then, of course, the gropey alien guy. Yeah.
It's either written so smartly that it's stupid or it's so stupid that it looks like it's smart.
It could have been. I think it's the second one, but it could have been better.
It's not written well and with the ideas of good.
Right.
Something like that.
It's an idea that just like Parasites Regained was like
the potential was really high up there.
A potential idea, and it was and the sad thing is that these kinds of episodes do need to take years in the making because you need to develop those characters and those storylines and those arcs in order for them to actually have
like very very good point, Anthony. 10 points for you.
Oh, thank you. I'm better than this episode. But
dude, you were better than 90% of the season. I'm better than about 75% of the season.
Well, we'll move on here to then episode 9. So this is the one actually I think
this
universally.
is my second least
Yeah.
favorite.
So everybody, I'm including online on this because a lot of people just detest the episode. I think it's basically because the Prince and the Product is basically the three-parter or the what if machine of this particular season or this part of the season.
Yeah.
And it's a storyline where Leela, Fry, and Bender are doing a delivery, and Leela falls in love with the prince of this particular area. Whatever, I think he's actually
Prince
called the Prince of Space.
Yeah, Prince of Space.
And in between these like little breaks, it's supposed to be like this very melodramatic soap opera type of ordeal. And then in between these breaks is a commercial that plays, and it reinvents the characters as toys.
I honestly forget. I think I've only seen this episode twice.
Sure. I think I only watched it once, but this is what I kind of remember. Like one of them was Cars.
Yeah, that was the first one, if I'm not mistaken. No, the first one, they were wind-up toys.
Right, the wind-up toys. Another one was Cars, and
Yeah.
the last one was.
It was kind of a weird thing. It was one of those like there's two, I don't know, species, Fry, Zoid, basically Billy West and
they were
Thomas.
ducks.
They were ducks.
Right?
And
yes,
then
right.
Which I like because it's a tub toy. You know, everyone knows the tub toy duck, right? So then they're like, there's nothing in the world. Well, let's go and explore. And then they find, I don't remember what these toys are called, but they're egg shapes, right? And they can't be knocked over. A wibbly wobble or something like that. I can't wobble something. Right. And sure. That's Bender, Leela, Hermes, and Scruffy. And so there's a whole thing about them like Romeo and Juliet, but there's like a big giant war, but somehow Fry and Leela got it on.
Right.
And right. like what was it? Yeah, I think this is the only time canonically that they actually have a kid, right? Other than
yeah, no, they've never had a kid before.
Oh yeah, they technically had two kids when somehow they broke apart or laid an egg. I don't know. There is a Fry. There's now a Fry egg toy and then a Leela duck. So
okay.
Yeah. But those are just those are like the three things. Yeah. But this one's so weird because it doesn't do like three separate sections of things, right? It's one story with commercial breaks for toys.
Yes. And
who the fuck was this written for?
I want to because I think it's supposed to be similar to, do you remember the Richard Nixon one? I believe it was like when he's watching
I love
cartoons.
That one. Okay,
I do too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is, but it's not a commercial. It's him watching the cartoons, and the cartoons are the Saturday Night Live or Saturday cartoons or whatever they're called, right?
So Orphan Crippler, pass.
Pass. That one is hilarious. And honestly, it's because of Richard Nixon. Nixon makes a lot of really good comments in that show or in that episode. This one I think was trying to do something similar, but instead of doing it like a TV show and you're watching cartoons, it's like, here's your melodramatic soap opera, and what's going to happen next? Commercial break. And then the commercial break would be about the next toy. The thing is, though, for those types of shows, you wouldn't have toy commercials, so I don't know why it was doing that. But anyways.
Yeah, again, who's this episode made for? Because the commercials are for kids. Like, and mind you, yes, I understand that the people who love Futurama now are roughly our age, who grew up with like commercials for toys and stuff like that. Do you remember Creepy Crawlers? Do you remember Beast War Transformers and stuff like that? Yeah.
Any of those commercials. I mean, they're still playing commercials for toys for kids if you watch them.
No, they are. What are you talking about? There's no such thing as commercials anymore. Unless you're paying the bare minimum for Netflix or the bare minimum for Amazon Prime.
Live television, they still have.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that most people don't watch television now. They stream, and streaming services are trying to give you a cheaper option, but it also has commercials. So I don't know.
No, that's true.
Hulu.
And it's right. And in this one, right, it's for this kind of show that they're parodying, they wouldn't be playing toy commercials, right? Because kids probably wouldn't be watching this kind of show. But I think what really pisses people off is that this show the episode, not the commercials in the episode, but the episode itself is canon. So Leela.
Oh, it is considered canon?
I think that was what people were angry about, was whether or not this was considered canon. Because although it is a episode within an episode type of format, these characters are still doing a delivery, and the things that happen outside of it have nothing to do with what's going on in the episode itself. So it's actually still part of Futurama.
Well, that's you know what? Okay, so I'm looking at the Wikipedia for writers here. There's two people. I'm gonna assume. Oh, they're brothers. Okay, brothers. It was two people with the same last name. One's named Ari, and the other one's named Eric.
Okay.
Kaplan, Eric Kaplan.
Yeah.
And Ari has nothing as far as I can see for credits, but Eric, he did a couple episodes. Probably a lot of people will agree that they're one of the favorite ones. Hell is for Other Robots. Great episode, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why I Must Be a Crustacean in Love. I like that one. A Bicycle Clops Built for Two. Another not
We've
too
done
bad
all these
one.
episodes.
I like this
Yeah,
one.
we've talked about these episodes.
Parasites Lost. One of the best ones in the freaking franchise.
We've talked about that one.
I dated
already.
a robot.
Not here. But yeah.
I dated a robot.
Yep.
Pretty good one. And honestly, I think that actually, when we get to it, I'm pretty sure we'll talk about how AI girlfriends are a thing. Jurassic Bark. People love that one. We love that one. Although it's not considered technically sad and canon anymore. And then 300 Big Boys. And he also had credits for Beast with a Billion Backs and Bender's Game. So he has chops. He has writing chops. And this one is just so stupid. So I'm wondering if Ari, the one I can't really find anything on, had something to do with it. And his brother just like gave him like, oh, yeah, you're in control here, bro. But here's a note. Don't do this. Do this. So from what I can see from Ari Kaplan, he only has one writing credit, and it's Futurama on IMDb. So either he had full reins for this with, guidelines from the much more experienced brother, or they're both just like, you know what, we're semi-retired. Let's just do some, whatever. We just need the money. Blah blah blah.
This is the second last episode of
part one.
This part one or whatever. Like it's a fun episode. Like who cares, right? But I'll tell you,
I didn't like it. Like the fact that Leela left Fry for this guy, and then somehow she ended up killing him in a jousting, whatever. I don't care. Like it completely tried to undo all the build up for the love for each other.
It's also another insult and a sidelining of Fry, because he's like, okay, whatever makes you happy, Leela.
Fry becomes a simp beta.
He's a total bitch. Yeah, he won't fight. He's done, man. Like I
get it that that's all
Fry.
Women want nowadays. They want that simp beta cuck bitch. Yeah.
Do they? I don't think they do.
They want that. At least they don't.
Certain people
want that.
Certain people say like, oh, I want a guy who's not afraid to show emotion and do this and whatever. I don't think they mean do everything I say whenever I say it and never challenge me or never have a conversation with me. And like, I don't think anybody wants this in their life. It doesn't make any sense. But Fry has been definitely, as you just said, sidelined and simped. He's just there as a foil now for Leela.
Yeah,
that's basically all it is. So this one was absolutely a disappointment, but
2.5 out of 10 because I can't rate it lower than Parasites Regained.
Sure,
like it was really bad.
I'll throw. I mean, I didn't mind the commercial parts to it, honestly. I thought there was a couple of. I thought the animation, the ideas were okay. The animation was okay. Character designs were okay. I'd put maybe like a 4 or a 5. I'll go 4.5.
Either way, it's a fail. Either way, it's a fail. Just not a bad fail.
Right, not as low as yours, but like I said, you and I differed on these ideas, and this is what makes the conversation better, right? Okay,
it's my way or the highway.
Final one for this part of the season. So episode 10 all the way down.
Yeah.
Unlike everyone on the internet apparently who
praises.
They despised Prince and the Product. They absolutely love all the way down.
Yeah, I think everyone would say it's probably their favorite one
of the season.
Of the season, yeah.
You know what? I can't take that away.
It's a pretty good one. I like the idea.
I'll say I throw my own. I mean, based on my own markings, as you and I have just done, I'd throw. I Know What You Did Next, Xmas.
I like that one. It was fun.
I don't mind How the West Was Won, and The Impossible Stream I thought was okay as as a entry level or entry point back into the series. This episode is a great science fiction episode. I can't deny that. It's wonderfully written,
The
really
idea,
really
yeah.
interesting concept.
David X. Cohen.
David X. Cohen is brilliant. It's absolutely really really good. It's not good for Futurama because
No.
it throws away everything that, like, okay, are they in a simulation? In which case, why do we care about these characters? Or is it that this episode is the simulation and this whole time we've been watching another cast, another set of characters, and the real characters are not in this? And it's just been a whole thing this whole time, because when the other bender, so the whole main thing is the crew are sitting around and they try and create this universe in a simulation. The professor does, and it's like blocky and kind of weird or whatever, but then he adds more and more to it that makes it
Low
look,
resolution to
yeah,
high resolution.
high resolution, makes it basically
HD
look like them.
plus.
And the characters in the simulation start to make their own decisions and start to do this, but then they start wondering if they're in a simulation, to which the characters we're watching see this and like, oh my god, they're going to figure out that they're in a simulation. It's like, no, no, no. The only way they could do that is if they do something that would destroy, or the simulation cannot process, which is like basically blowing up some kind of star or something. They're creating like a supernova. And so they actually set out to do that. But in order to save them, the professor sends down Bender from their level to that level to
And
stop
he can't
them.
come back. He can't
Come back, to which then another bender, or the bender, whatever, goes back into their bender and says, well, basically just acts coy and says like, oh yeah, no, everything's normal. And then the other simulation basically goes away. So now we're left at the very end of the episode wondering, are they in a simulation? It's a beautiful idea, but not good for Futurama. This is probably
it's like that timey-wimey thing of like cyclicalness, right? Like if it's endless, then where's the beginning? How does it really matter? If it's just, if at some point the bottom becomes the top, and then first becomes second, and second comes third, and so on and so forth until the last one becomes number one again. It's a circle of meaninglessness.
Yeah. Well, in the episode with the forward traveling time machine, and you get to see through excerpts of like how Leela lives her life without Fry, and she takes over the Planet Express and sees what happens to all these characters. Like those
has a relationship with Kubert because he kind
Kubert
of
and all that
reminds
stuff.
her
Yeah,
of Fry.
right. But in the end, like, I mean, as sad as it is to say, the characters that we originally met when we first started Futurama are dead. The only people who are still alive are Bender. And Bender is even clone of himself, or a duplicate of himself, because he's been like traveling through time
Beast of a
so
Billion
often.
Backs thing, right?
But the professor and Fry are the only two original characters, basically. We'll count Bender as well. Those three are the only ones who are the original characters from when we first start this series. Everyone else is dead.
Yes. Oh, you know what? Oh God, I hate it. That was one of the things I didn't really care about for Rick and Morty, was that like Rick and Morty kept going from different universes, and that Jerry, or if you follow that,
one or two times, or two or three times.
Yeah, you can only do that one or two times, and like it feels like crap, we screwed up. Let's erase everything that mattered and just kind of like, oh hey, we undid everything, but not really. It just, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a cop out. But you're right. I didn't even think about that. Fry and Professor are literally the same two people that we went. Again, though, it comes with that whole cyclical thing of like, oh well, this is the exact same universe, but it's just 10 feet lower. So it's the whole thing of like, well, then Hitler still happened in this universe. Hitler will happen in the next universe, but just 10 feet lower, kind of thing. So it's,
just in existence, it's just 10 feet lower. That's
yeah. So it's the whole thing too, and like they've already established that nope, time is a straightforward thing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing as well. So if time is indeed cyclical, that means that you can change time, but that means it's not cyclical anymore because different things are happening, because Fry exists in the time. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that means that
time is a very hard thing to write, and Futurama had done it pretty good up until
time travel is super difficult,
up until that episode, I guess, when because you kind of got that idea from Johnny Two Cello, right?
Johnny Two Cellos has mentioned, I think he's the one that propels this idea that it is cyclical, or at least he's under the impression that it's cyclical, and I think his group believes so. I've heard the argument for it, and I've looked back and I've watched, and I was like, okay, but this, and this. So I don't think it makes better sense, or it makes more sense, we'll say. Like, I think it's still confusing. I don't think it makes more sense if it's cyclical, because if it's cyclical, then time can't change. Exactly. But it has changed.
Exactly.
And we know it's changed because Fry and the Professor and Bender are all still in the timeline. So
Well, the other thing is
I
too that
think it's just the
they've
universes are
explained time
really
travel on their way, like, right? Because like there's many different ways to do time travel written
yes.
and stuff like that, and because science has become a lot more truthful, I guess I would say the same, or like a lot more people believe this, like, oh, this theory is more likely than this theory, because
Sure.
people who like Back to the Future, technically that's not the same kind of time travel as the Avengers.
No. Oh well, the time the
Yeah,
time
again,
travel in
again,
Avengers
we
fucks
could talk
itself
about this and
over,
stuff
but
like that, and like,
yes.
if you
Yeah.
go back in time to tell yourself, hey, don't do this, can you do that? Because you'd have to have that happen to
You
you
never
in
do
order
it.
to go
Right.
back in time. And if
Right.
that doesn't happen, then you won't be able to go back. It's one of those stupid things, right? Like I would much rather like the Back to the Future where it's like, hey, Dad, don't be creepy and punch the bully kind of thing, right? Because that made his life better.
Right.
But
But he could change the future, right?
yeah, and but Marty still
Yeah.
had the same memory that his
Memories.
dad did
Right.
that, right? So it's
That's right.
just I much prefer that one because there's a little bit more meaning behind it and stuff like that. Do the right
Mhm.
thing or something like that. Stand up to
Yeah.
bullies, rather than this whole like, well, you can't do that because how do you go back in time to tell yourself that if you don't do that and make that
Yeah.
mistake and go back in time? It's one of those stupid things.
It's the
Which
paradox of it,
Futurama
right?
has
Yeah.
has kind of done. Right? They've said that
Yeah.
this has a paradox, and then like the first movie was all about that. Like, this time travel has no paradoxes,
Right.
but it did.
It
So
does.
like
But
they
the
canceled their own.
paradox is like, yeah, they end themselves or something happens to them.
Yeah,
Hence why Hermes can't have his new body and Lars can't
Lars,
live, right? So
and why
there's
Bender can't all his not clones, but just like he told himself to not go back in future kind
right.
of thing.
They just
That's why they
they
all
come
kind
up
of
with it
blew up, and
logically
then
supposed to.
it broke the
Right?
space, which is how he got Evo.
That's right. And that's what led into the next thing. So there was a continuity error, but then it was kind of part of the story, right? That
Yeah,
was kind of like the point of the science fiction. When it came to the science fiction of the forward traveling time machine, the idea was like, okay, we have to keep on going as forward as possible so that we could
my
maybe,
last proton.
yeah. And then it's like, oh my God, like because the professor didn't know either. Like he was learning this as they were in it, and he's watching the universe like, oh, we're in this is a new big bang. Oh, all this stuff. There's the planet, there's the moon, there's all this stuff. And then he's like, hey, this planet is developing the same way ours did, just a
Actually,
little bit lower. So
wait, yeah, hold on.
yeah,
I take it back. Not every universe is 10 feet. It's 5 feet because they accidentally went past one, right? When he accidentally
right.
slipped and fell.
Yeah.
So
He
yeah,
slipped
yeah.
and he because he was aiming for Hitler. I think he actually got Hitler the one time.
The one time that he hit Eleanor
And then
Roosevelt or something
he
like
slipped
that.
and hit the thing, so they had to go around again. So he's just like, I'll just aim out the window, and then he hit somebody else. Yeah, Eleanor
So
Roosevelt. So in their universe, they're currently in. No, wait, because it's changed with the Christmas episode again. In another
no,
episode,
because
doesn't the
they went back to the same one that they left, if I remember
oh right,
correctly,
because he could
right?
go back in time, right? All right,
Yes.
okay. So in that universe they're in, that other person is dead, but Hitler lived.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any case, anyways,
Consequences.
consequences for this. So this particular episode with the simulation, it plays on a cool idea, but it either means everything or it means nothing,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the issue. Yeah.
Here's my personal theory on that, because the whole thing is that the bender that we saw went to go to that place, right? And then it got
Yes.
replaced by another bender.
Right.
So I'm gonna chalk it up to that whole Rick and Morty thing, where it's like, which Rick were we following, especially with that like one where like they had a whole bunch of people just that were parasites or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think that this is like the second or third layer into what they're showing, right? That the professor in the real Futurama created a thing that's like, hey, look, guys, I made a thing that can simulate, and then he
Mhm.
overclocked it, and then they're like, oh crap, that universe is creating their own universe, and instead of
Yes.
sending Bender, he just wrote some new code or something that's just like, oh, it's okay, you guys aren't in simulation, but the thing that you're simulating thinks they're in, so you need to send Bender down. So we're watching the
Right.
second one in or something like that. So the real Professor
Right.
Fry and Leland and Bender, they're watching a simulation of the simulation of a simulation. So
Right.
that's what I think.
I think
But
that was kind of what I was throwing around there as well. It's like we're not watching the main
cast,
crew.
yes, yeah,
We're watching
it's
the
like it's already
simulation,
like
the first
yeah,
simulation. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, no, I'd say the
And
second one, because how would that one Bender appear? Because I don't think the real
right.
Bender would
Okay.
have done that. Well, he would have,
Right.
but like he couldn't come back. So I don't know.
Right.
I just will 100% agree with you though that we're not watching the actual crew.
Right. I don't think they'll never bring this up again. This will never be like referenced in anything except maybe somebody
Well,
might say like, oh, that simulation episode, but it'll never come up.
it's written by
Yeah.
David X. Cohen, and he's done some pretty, crucial writing for this stuff, like the Why Fry, the brain
Yeah.
bot, the day that the Earth's
He's the one that did the arc of Fry's. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All of
So
Fry's arc is because of him. Yeah.
he did Rebirth, and then what's the Free Will Hunting one? Oh, is that the one where Bender tries to
Bender's
go
looking for his free will, and then he's
yeah.
actually that one's also a very well written episode. It's not really funny, but it's a very well written episode. But it actually has consequences and it actually adds more to the Futurama lore. This one does not.
Yeah, this one does not. Yeah, but it's a good think about it episode, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I say very well written episode. I just don't like it as a Futurama episode. So I would say it's a I don't know, a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 for the concept.
It was still a fun watch for me. I did not hate it, other than the whole like Bender came back and like, so does that mean there's a layer above? What's going on here? I didn't like that part, so I'll still give it a 6.5, 7. It was a good pass. It wasn't didn't break my brain, but just it was a good one.
But overall, I think if you add up all of our, I didn't also obviously didn't write down the numbers, but if we have all these numbers in our heads and we average them out, we're probably sitting at like
5.5 maybe.
Yeah, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 here. Not very good, Futurama. Not very good. But this is the case, right? So overall, you and I are going to talk a little bit more next time. We'll discuss some predictions before the next part comes out. But overall,
we want to talk about like our speculations for the next episodes, because the next half, because they have put out the episode titles, and we want to speculate like, oh, we think it's about this, oh, we think it's about that.
Right, and
we'll probably be wrong.
We might be wrong, but we could also be right. So we could have like what ideas we would like to see, but what we think will actually probably happen. We can probably talk about each one of those when it comes out. But yeah, I guess overall. So any last things to add to part 1 of this before we wrap up?
I don't have high hopes for the part 2 because of it. But I'm looking at my average here.
Oh, you actually really?
Yeah, it's about a 5.2 for me. I might have changed some of the numbers. I rewent over them. So it's a slight pass, I think, from me. Very slight pass. But I don't know, man.
Doesn't drive hope into your mind, right? Yeah.
Well, apparently there's supposed to be a season 12 or whatever it is, like a season 9, because there's part 1 and part 2 are technically season 8, right? So I think they have been renewed for a season 9, but from how Hollywood's been acting, they could probably cancel that before anything major is done.
Yeah.
So
well, unless Hulu has already provided the money and the resources to do so, and they could honestly be working on it right now. If the next part of the season is supposed to be coming out, they could be storyboarding and acting in this
voice acting,
voice acting. Well, so we'll see.
I'll mention this also too, because Futurama has a huge following, or at least a very specific following and stuff like that. People love putting there's the infosphere.org. There's also like the fandom and stuff like that. These episodes have been out for a long time and no one's updated them with like any information. It's just like, here's the info name and stuff, like here's the titles reference and the opening and stuff like that, the opening cartoon. They have not put any other like trivia, allusions, continuity, or quotes or anything. So this has been out for a while. People would have done something here. So that just proves to me that the fandom, at least the core fandom, I would say, like you or me, who love the show, don't really care for these episodes.
Nope.
And that's sad. And
I don't think it leaves anybody really wanting to talk about it or have fun with it, right?
No, it just my hopes are that, like, you know what, there was at least 2 or 3 good episodes that I gave a 7, 6.5 kind of thing, right? And there's another 10, and so crap, what's his name? Ken Keeler. He's the guy who wrote all of the finales, the 4 finales that they had. He did Meanwhile, just so you know.
Right.
So he also apparently wrote How the West Was 1010001, which was okay. I'm not gonna hate it, but I didn't specifically like it too much.
Sure. I liked it as a concept of an episode, but it
Yes.
could have been better. Yeah.
Yes, it was very of its time from 8 years ago. He's got the last episode here in the new season, the new part 2 called Otherwise.
Otherwise, right.
If he knocks it out of the park for the 5th time and it gets canceled, my God, that guy should get like the award for like best like
he'll get an Emmy for
series
how many
ending
finales he's written for.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and when we talk about it, because this will definitely come up in that episode when we talk about our predictions for it. We'll talk about what Otherwise could possibly be. But until then, we'll keep it up on there and we'll try and figure out for this time. Like I'm with you. I don't have high hopes for part 2 or for Futurama in the future if they continue going the way that they're going. If anything, I can tell them, bring Fry back to the main front.
Yes.
Right? Or the forefront, I should say. Bring him back as a main character. Make episodes revolve around him. Definitely
not
keep
all
like,
of them,
the
just the majority.
Not all of them. Yeah. Have the progression of his character and with Leela and Bender and everybody be there. Like that's all good. And everything they've done to progress the series, keep those things, but leave modern things out of it. If you're going to have modern ideology, modern social justice, if you're going to have modern anything modern, it doesn't have to even be social justice, modern political anything, or modern, if you're going to talk about a war between countries that are coming up because of whatever, make it be Futurama-esque.
Yeah.
Talk
War
about
is the H word. That was funny.
That was funny, and it was totally a play on a lot of different things. So you had Nixon, you had Kissinger, you had all these things, like had that analogy. Bring it back to that. Bring it back to that, and actually have something where you can have people be like, oh, that was Futurama's take on this. It was funny. It was well done. That's what I would say.
But
the
one thing I would add to that, which I think a lot of people may have forgotten it or talked about it, and some people may have said, oh no, that's the second movie or whatever. There's a whole thing with that, the one where Fry goes back in time to where Nibbler pushed him over, and he's like, the only reason why the future would be worth it is Leela, and he's like, oh, you mean the other
one? Yeah. We can talk about that with the predictions. Yeah.
Give her something. Make her essential to some big thing that could change the universe, and make her the one, because I just make it fun.
That definitely could be something with Otherwise.
All right, I think I remember the idea I had that would make her the other one too.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, we'll
keep that in mind. Yeah, we'll talk about that, because I'd be curious to hear that too.
I'm pretty sure
we can go through, from 11 through 20 of this, and yes, they are all named and they're all here. Some of them could be fun, some of them could be dumb, but we'll see. We'll have to see. But
I'm going to look at the writers for these ones and backtrack their legitimacy.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me, Mitchell, and we'll talk to you next time as we discuss Part B before it comes out.
Bitey duty, right?
Exactly. Have a good one.
You too.